Of course, the wonderful world of texting is something that's come in the last few years, I suppose, because first, people made music with tom-toms. Banging two rocks together, that sort of thing. Then it was a violin, maybe even one of the medieval instruments such as the serpent. Fabulous noise out of one of those. Then, of course, the guitar, the electric guitar, and now it's your mobile phone. It is, isn't it? There's a whole industry transforming almost any tune into a melody that you hear when your mobile phone rings. Whatever happened to just ring, 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 ring? What happened to that? Andy Clark lives in Hardwick and had a wealth of experience in the telecoms industry when he launched his own ringtone company, Ringtone.net, right back in 1998, 10 years ago. He was there right at the beginning. I spoke to Andy recently, and we were discussing that, actually, his love of the mobile phone ringtone, his manipulation of the mobile phone ringtone, actually comes out of his musical ability, and I asked him about that musical ability.
When I was about 10, I think it was 10 or 11, I used to listen to a lot of pop music, ABBA, of all things, and Meatloaf. And
we all do it,
we all like
you know?
it. It's nothing to be embarrassed of it, is it? I'm a closet ABBA fan.
Okay.
Meatloaf, things like that. Things with a lot of piano in it. And I started to pick the tunes out. And my dad bought an old piano, I think it was from the Gala Club, I think it was. It was going to be burnt, of all things. And we recovered it and refurbished it, and I started playing that. My mum got me piano lessons, and we went through that sort of avenue. But even though I could read music, not very well, but I could read music, I didn't really like it. I would like to hear something and then go and play it.
Yeah.
And I could do it, and I don't know how, but I can work it out in my head, so I could do that. But my mother tried to stop me actually doing that and told my piano teacher to say, like, you know, I don't want him playing by ear, it's bad. And she said, oh, no, you must not stop him. It's a gift. Yeah. Do not stop him. And it went from there, and I carried on playing things by ear, and, you know, things like piano, any piano tunes I used to just be able to pick up and go and play.
I mean, how does that work in your head? Is it just is it just a simple case of you hear it and think,
I hear it, yeah.
Oh, right, that's what I need to do.
Yeah, well, I hear it, and then I go and work out the notes, like your jingle, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah. And it's bizarre. I don't know how I can do it. I just can. And I can harmonise it as well. And you know, like the Robin Hood theme. I love that off the, you know, Robin the Locksmith.
Oh, yeah.
I can play that perfectly, all of it.
Yeah.
By just practising and bizarrely playing it.
From there, did you ever think I could have a career in music? I always
wanted to do that, to be fair. I mean, we had a few bands. There was a band in the Forest of Dean. I think we were called S3. A very sort of weird name, but yeah, we did a few gigs in the Forest of Dean, and then I did that for a few years and played the keyboard in there. I had a DX7, which was quite a good keyboard at the time. A lot of the 80s pop groups used them. And then I did some work with a lady called Chantal from who worked at the ski centre, actually, and we did a bit of music together, and that was good. And then it sort of died off, and I started doing other things. But the music was always there in my background. It was always in you, really, I suppose.
Yeah. So what makes, you know, you've got a musical ear, you know, you've had your fun doing the music. It's always there. You'll always have that. You've moved on to different things. What makes you then move into the world of mobile phones?
Because blimey.
I mean, when are we talking about here to start with?
Well, I got into mobile phones in '93 when I left BT, where I'd worked for 11 years, and I set up a phone shop in the Kimbrose Triangle called AK Mobile Communications. And I sold that in 1997, and then went back to the life of an employee again, Orange, PCS in Bristol.
I mean, what was the world of the mobile phone like in '93? Because I probably I only got my first mobile phone, and I know this from memory because it's when I first started working freelance in radio, and I knew somebody needed to get hold of me. 97.
Yeah, really?
I got my first mobile phone in 97.
Yeah.
Well, they're expensive.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, come on.
Well, they still are expensive now, but the mobile networks subsidise them so much that they become they're valueless almost, and yet they still have a very high value, you know, as the equipment. Yeah. But in 1993, when I got into it, it was analog days, and GSM was just coming out, I think. Vodafone GSM was just coming out. and it was called the tax network, and it was all radio, you know, proper analog radio. So it was, but they were big, you know. The Motorola was a big sort of thing, like a briefcase, I think.
Yeah.
And they just used to ring, you know, ring, or that was it. It didn't do anything else, nothing more. And you could use them to call people.
I mean, say that to a youngster today.
No photos.
Oh, good heavens! No multimedia messaging. How can you?
No texting, nothing like that. No. I think Orange was one of the first networks to allow SMSs to be sent. Short message service messages to be sent.
Text.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, text. And that was around 97. Well, Orange started in 94, so, but again, the phones, all they did was ring. You know, ring,
yeah.
that was it. And then in 97, I think it was Nokia came up with this proprietary, I think it was a student who was working for Nokia in Finland, came up with this way that you could encode some code into a text message and then send it to a phone, and that would interpret it as either a graphic, as you want, whatever you want on your phone and display, or a ringtone.
And we're talking sort of monochrome liquid crystal displays there.
1 or 0, you know, black or nothing.
Yeah.
That was it, and that was the display. So that sort of took off in 97. And maybe actually not 97, maybe 98, I think, actually. And then there was a guy in Finland who wrote this bit of software called Knockring, I think it was. And he wrote this bit of software there. You could actually go and put the notes onto the stave.
Yeah.
So you could write the music, and then it would convert that into a ringtone. So that's where I started to realise then that I could actually do this. And I could do things like The Simpsons and Mission Impossible and stuff like that. Everybody knew me at Orange, and if they wanted a ringtone, even Hans Snook, you know, the CEO then, he wanted a ring. I could just do it. You know, anything could be ringtoned if you want, if that's a verb.
Yeah.
And anything could be done, you know. But the best ones were the TV shows and the things like that, because they were distinctive and people could identify with them, and characters and personalities, things like that. So yeah.
When did you start thinking, hang on, let's do a bit of a website. Let's just stick them on the because the internet was in its infancy then as well.
Yeah, well, it was really. I can remember. Let me think. I created this this website because there were a few other websites out there, but it was more. The tunes were wrong. Much like you said, the jingle, like, which one you were right, you know, it was wrong. And they used to bug me, because I'd listen to it and think, no, that's not right, so I'll have a go at doing it myself. Then banged it up with some of the code I'd put onto this website, which was comms.demon.co.uk, so that's how long ago it was. It wasn't even ringtone.net then. And I started getting all these hits, and I was getting something like 1,000 hits a day. For a hobby site, that's quite a lot of
Yeah, I mean,
hits.
there was only 8 people with the internet at that point.
Yeah, exactly, 8 or 9, you know, maybe 9 at a push. And I started getting sort of fairly high rankings on some of these. It wasn't Google then, it was, I can't remember, Vista or something like that.
Web crawler, that was...
Web crawler,
yeah.
Web crawler, that's it, it was. And, yeah, I got some quite high rankings on there, and I was getting all these hits, a lot of hits, and it just went from there, really.
And you can find out tomorrow how Andy in Hardwick and his company Ringtone Net actually made it into the big time. On the way, how one proud mother in the county decided to write a letter to the Citizen newspaper and suddenly catapulted her son onto the big breakfast on Channel 4. Johnny and Denise were very impressed, apparently. We'll be talking to Andy Clark from Hardwick about the mobile phone revolution. Now, there was a time where everybody's mobile phone ringtone sounded the same. You know, just the standard ring. Ring, 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 and that's it. If anybody had a tune or a piece of music, or of some kind, it just sounded a bit novelty and a bit naff. But soon everybody started having their own. And if you don't have a ringtone now, then you are in the minority, to say the least. It's big business. And it's something that Andy Clark from Hardwick clocked onto. He saw a business opportunity to launch his own ringtone company, Ringtone.net, back in the very early days. of 1998. We spoke recently, and you heard the first part of the conversation yesterday, about how his love of music and his ability to play music by ear actually led on to him setting up the whole idea of ringtones. And in this second part, we find out how he was catapulted to stardom and how his life has turned out since the ringtone revolution. And the thing is, it's all his mum's fault.
For some reason, I think my mother wrote to the Citizen and said, you know, my son's doing this, he can do this, he's whatever, blah, blah, blah.
A proud mother, showing off her son.
Yeah, sort of. And it went from there. They came around and did an article on it, and then the Western Daily Press did an article, then the Daily Star, and then you guys came around and did a TV thing as well, and a couple of other TV stations, and it just went mad. Of course, then I had the call from The Big Breakfast, which I was in two minds of doing, really, because I was quite frightened, to be fair.
I mean, thinking about The Big Breakfast, it hasn't been on air...
No.
For about 10 years, probably. Right. For about 10 years. And it's difficult to actually get over to people just how many people watching The Big Breakfast.
Absolutely.
Millions of people watching The Big Breakfast, weren't
Yeah, definitely. And it was, I mean, and the last two that run it, it's sort of Denise and Johnny.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm on first name terms with them, of course. Denise.
Oh, yes. Denise and Johnny, they're
John
often popping right.
Absolutely. And they were great, and they were so dynamic and punch. Yeah. And I must admit, everybody at Orange said, he's going to take you to pieces. He will take you to pieces. So I took these 5 mobile phones with me, and I programmed the ringtones into each one because I didn't want to try and download them on the phone, on the TV. I thought that would just go well wrong.
Yeah.
So, funnily enough, there's a little bizarre story with that because I could only get 4. And I went to Orange into one of the technical places and said, can I have 3 of these latest phones? They said, no, you can't. No, you can't have those, no way. And I went, okay, fine. So then I had a phone call off Hans Snook. And he said, I've heard about you going on the TV. Very impressed, thank you. Make sure you wear an orange T-shirt, which they wouldn't let me wear. He said, is there anything I can help you with? I said, well, I need 3 of these Nokia NK702s. And he said, can you get some? I said, yeah, I know where there are 3, but they won't let me have them. And he said, just tell them Hans said it was okay. So I went back to this guy, quite sort of, chirpy, and said, oh, Hans said I could have those. So I ended up with this on a briefcase, with Johnny Vaughan sat in front of me, and he loved it. He loved it.
Bizarre. At any point when you were doing this, were you sort of sitting there in the studio thinking, hang on, it's only ringtones.
Exactly. Why am I why am I doing this? That was the thing. And I thought at the time, this is bizarre, really. It's just a phone, and people used them to ring people at the time, nothing else. But it was, I can remember after the Big Breakfast, one of the guys said, look, you've got an opportunity here. This is going to be massive. You need to market this. But I was quite naive, to be fair, at the time. Or more naive than I am now. And it was one of your guys at the BBC in London. He gave me this number. He was a copyright specialist. And he said, right, you need to contact the Mechanical Copyright Protection Society, the MCPS. And you need to say what you're going to do. But don't tell them it's ringtones, because they won't understand it, and they'll just, no. They'll block it straight away. Tell them it's greeting cards. So I said, okay. So I rang these 2 guys from the MCPS and told them what I want to do. And they said, okay, greeting cards, that's fine. So we worked out all this stuff. Yeah, no problem. And then I hit them with, well, actually, it's ringtones. And so what do you mean it's ringtones? And I had to go through all of the explanation on what I was doing. And he said, right, well, okay, well, I need 10 of your most popular ringtones and we'll try and get clearance for them.
Yeah.
So I gave him the top 10, Mission Impossible, Sweet Child of Mine, a few others, and the only one that I could get clearance on was Sweet Child of Mine. Nothing else.
Good grief.
Mission Impossible, no chance. ABBA, is it Boca Music? No way.
Oh,
absolutely no chance. And I think U2, no way. So I left it and thought nothing of it. So I thought this isn't going to work. Well, then, about 6 months later, I was sat in one of the testing areas in Orange, and someone had one of my ringtones. It was The Simpsons, and I knew it was mine, because you just know.
Yeah.
And I said, where'd you get that from? And he said, I bought it from a company off the web. So I'd had a letter from the MCPS saying it was probably unworkable.
Yeah.
And basically, I thought, forget it, leave it. So when I heard this ringtone, I looked into it and I actually reread the MCPS letter, and what they said was, we'll do it on a trial basis, and you can do it. And I'd lost 6 months. The website then started getting ranked by Google.
Yeah.
And until recently, when I changed some of the code on the website, which really messed up the ranking, it was number 1 for Google for the keyword ringtone. In fact, I think it's number 5 in the US still. And the website's sort of been going ever since, really.
How much money do you make on ringtones then?
Well,
I know that's a very vulgar question.
No, it's not actually. And if I'm honest, probably not a lot now. No, because I think I've taken my eye off the site. The URL's still there, and it's now being run mainly by another mobile provider. I'm not doing anything with it. It's just there. And I'll be honest, I make far more money out of doing the consultancy stuff I do for multimedia and project management than I do with the ringtones, which is sad, really, and it's wrong, because I should be making more money out of that. I think it's got quite incestuous, if you like, now, and I think it went from being quite a fun industry to a multi-billion pound industry now, and worldwide it's massive. And I think now that you've got a lot of, not necessarily underhand ways of getting people to sign up, but, you know, when I did it, it was $2.99 credit card payment, and that was it. You know, and I think we then went on to the reverse SMS, where you send a text, and then, you know, IVR, where you ring up a number and you can do that. But now you've got these ways of, you know, send a text to this to get this ringtone, and it's free, and then, you know, in the background you're getting charged £2 every week for the next however long, and things like that. And I think once you get into that, you then start getting industries to, like Ixis or whoever it is, who will protect the customer.
Yeah.
And then they actually ruin it for everybody, I think.
Ultimately, it's become just something else you buy, rather than something exciting like it was in the early days.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite funny. I went to a party at my neighbour's, and they've all got ringtones, and it's just it's an accepted thing, you know, whereas when I was doing it, it was exciting. Oh, what's that? What's that? You know, to guess what it was and things like that. And now it's just an accept, you know, if you haven't got a ringtone, then there's something wrong.
Looking back over the whole ringtone revolution.
Yeah.
Looking back over what's happened, has it just left you thinking, actually, you're quite happy to have been in there that early?
Yeah.
But then you've got on with the rest of your life?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, there's two ways this could have gone. You know, if I'd have put more effort into it, and if I'd have left Orange a lot earlier, and had probably some commercial advice from somebody, like this Dragon's Den thing. Imagine going sitting there, you know.
They would love that!
Yeah, they would, exactly. Then that would have been great, and I would be in a different situation now. But on the other hand, I'm happy with what I'm doing now, and it's, you know, I'm really happy. So yeah, it could have gone on.